Hey everyone, how are you doing? Welcome back. Well, I got some reviews and feedback about the first few episodes, and some of them were saying the echo voice, the sound, and the angle of the camera. I tried to help and fix it. I hope you like the new setup. And if you really like our content, please help us or support us by share, subscribe, like, and comment. For now, with a new episode with the podcast, please welcome my friend Chris. How are you doing, Chris?
Doing well. How
All
you
is
doing,
good,
Mel?
man.
Yeah,
All
it's
is
good to
great.
see you.
Good to see you. You are the first one in the new setup. I really hope you like it.
It's more relaxing,
Right?
Definitely,
Yeah.
it's a nicer fit. So keep it going. Pablo's taking good care of you on the stage setup.
Yeah, shout out for Pablo. He's a producer. So yeah, man, it's very good, and I wanted to do more better. I'm listening to the people who've been asking me to do more stuff. You know, we are in the beginning. We are trying to getting
you're,
better.
You're working
We are
everything
learning.
out.
Yeah, so I hope they like it. I hope everything be better. So Chris, doing something I really want to do all the time. He's doing road trips, a lot of road trips, going anywhere in the states. I think he been too many states, so he will tell us more better than me. So when was your last road trip?
My last road trip was over the course of Christmas last year, 2022 into 2023.
Okay.
And it was something that I had planned after I'd sold my business. I had my own business for 10 years. And once I finished the sale of the business, I was just thinking of something to do. And I decided I was going to do a cross-country road trip with just my dogs and myself. And we got everything organized, and we just kind of picked a direction and hit the road. We didn't really plan much of it other than just a specific direction we wanted to go.
What was it the right direction?
So obviously, being in Florida, we can either go north or we can go west. So we went west first across I-10, and basically we hugged the southern border all the way out until California. But we took I-10, to small towns and cities and camps all across that area, and it was just a wonderful experience on the first trip of it.
So you just put on map or something, the destination is California, and just going on the way.
That's it.
I like that.
I don't really like to plan too much into it. I kind of like to just throw a dart at a map and just kind of pick an area.
Go.
Yep. If something looks interesting to me, it catches my attention, I'm going to go to it. I like having plans sometimes. It makes things easier to kind of organize, but at the same time, I like the spontaneity of just wherever the road takes me. That's where I'm going to go.
I think that is the best of being on road trip.
Yeah.
Just going and whatever catch your eyes or your attention. Okay, I'm going there,
That's exactly the way I was looking at it. It's like, cause what if, I'm on the road and I'm planning to go to A, but then I'm like, oh my gosh, this looks so much better than A. Let's just go here instead. So I went with an idea of where I wanted to go, but I was always open to what might be better. And that's kind of where I left it. So.
Oh, really? That's nice.
Yeah.
How many states you been so far?
Total, or just on that road trip?
Total in the beginning, and we will back to this road trip.
I've been to probably about 45, 46 states in the United States.
Okay. You have very few left.
Alaska included. The only few that I have not been to would be North Dakota, which is random. North Dakota, Maine, and Vermont. Like the Northeast, I haven't been to a few states up there. But I've been to like Jersey, Connecticut, Maryland.
Everything.
Yeah, I've been to pretty much everything else. And of course, I haven't been to Hawaii yet. That's still on my list. But it's a little hard to drive to Hawaii.
Yeah, that's very far, but I think you have 5 left or something. That's very
it's not a bad.
Very little, So you are very close to finish it.
My goal was to tour, basically to see all the states in the United States first before I started to explore other places. I feel that people who live in the United States kind of take it for granted that they want to travel outside of the country because it's exotic, it's beautiful, but people forget that we have so many beautiful places here in the United States. I agree with that. We have the Sierra Mountains, the Rocky Mountains, the Appalachian, the Pacific Northwest.
You have all kind of tourism here. Like if you like mountain hiking, all the stuff, a lot of them. If you like the beach and amazing beach or stuff, Hawaii, Miami, Florida, California, all of these places have. So you can really have too much attraction everywhere.
Correct.
So I think it's a good idea to visit all of them. And sometimes people doesn't know how many good places here.
And that's what I agree, 100%.
How what's your favorite place you've been?
Um,
Or places, because maybe it would do more than
so
one.
I would say my favorite place I've been in the continental United States would be Montana.
Oh.
Montana, it's just breathtaking. The sunsets, the mountains, the wildlife, the activities you can do, just how big it is. I mean, it's it's very appropriately named Big Sky.
Oh,
Really?
really?
Big Sky, Montana. It's huge, and it's just endless sunsets, endless colors. It's a good time over there. Outside of the United States, it's 100% Alaska.
Oh, okay.
Alaska it's basically Montana on steroids. It is 100 times bigger. It's not actually 100 times, but I'm metaphorically speaking here. It's bigger. It's
a huge anyway.
Oh, it's huge. It's absolutely just monstrous. And then the mountains out there are just a whole nother level. The wildlife as well. It's just beautiful. Plus, you have the coastline. You have a lot of the ocean, the Pacific and the northern Pacific up there, the Arctic. And you just have a little bit more, things that you can experience while you're out there.
I see that. Do you like the cold in general? Or
I love the cold.
Yeah, because I feel not too many people love Alaska in general because the cold or something. But
shocking when I went up there, I was a little surprised it was not as cold as I anticipated. Like it does obviously have its freezing sub-zero temperatures, but I went in 2020 at the end of August, beginning of September for a 2-week road trip, and the weather was perfect. It was highs of 75, 80 degrees during the day, lows of maybe 35. So it was a good in between temperature, kind of like that Goldilocks zone. And the good thing about that time as well was the tourist attractions were still open, stores and everything, all of your necessities were still available, but the tourism had died down, so you weren't overrun with overcrowded with a lot of people everywhere. So that provided a lot of extra flexibility and freedom to schedule hikes and tours and fishing charters and all of that kind of stuff without being surrounded by tons of people.
I like that.
But it definitely still gets cold up there. I'm not trying to say it doesn't.
I'm sure. I love the cold. So
I love the cold. Yeah, for me, I'm an active person. It's easier for me to stay moving and stay warm and layer up than it is to be in the heat, and you can't cool down as easily. You can only take off so much clothes, and then you're naked and you're still miserable.
That's true. Let's back to the States. Do you have a favorite food?
Favorite food. So I'm Italian. My favorite food is spaghetti.
Oh, okay.
100%. My mom makes the best spaghetti I've ever had in my life.
Oh.
She's the most phenomenal cook I could ever imagine, and I know I'm biased here, but I also have had hundreds of friends throughout my lifetime say the exact same thing.
Okay.
I got very blessed with my mother being that good of a cook.
Oh,
She's
I like that.
The matriarch of our family. She kind of holds everyone together, and
Always.
anytime there's a cooking or party or event, she's in charge of everything.
Mom is always the best chef ever for everyone,
Oh my gosh.
Everyone has his mom is the best chef for him. That's really...
When I was in high school, she actually got kind of voluntold to be our wrestling team cook. So for our wrestling tournaments, because of how good my mom cooked everything, everyone was like, "All right, Chris, your mom's gonna cook. Your mom's gonna cook."
Really?
And my mom's like, "What? Really? I
don't have to do that."
She would do chicken and rice. She'd do spaghetti. She'd do breakfast casseroles. One year, she made 40 pounds of honey barbecue chicken wings for a tournament that we had at our school, and it was just for the wrestlers. Well, as soon as we finished our weigh-in, we went and ate all of the food. We left there's like only 13 of us, and there was only like 3 or 4 pounds left at the end of it, and it was like fall off the bone good.
Oh wow!
So
she's that good.
She's a good.
Yeah, cook. But my question was, your favorite food in which state? Like which state have really the best food? Oh, it's good to know the food from mom. But
okay, all right, well, a little rant there. Sorry. Best food. I don't know. I think just the southern cooking, like here in the South, it's
the best for you.
For me.
Really?
It just fits me the best. I love barbecue. Okay. Anything off the barbecue is just kind of my favorite thing to do. Steaks. I'm a huge steak fan. Yeah. I always keep my freezer stocked. Fried chicken is always a good one. So just Southern hospitality.
Southern
food.
is good.
Oh yeah, Southern
Yeah.
hospitality is probably my favorite food. And other than that, I don't really have any other like food out in the rest of the country that I was just like, wow.
So when you're doing a road trips, you are cooking or you are really trying restaurants in all the states?
I try to do a little bit of both. When I was traveling, I definitely had a little, cooler full of foods that I could make up real quick here and there, bacon, eggs, toast. But I made sure to always budget out for a good restaurant that I would look ahead and try stuff out. Like when I went to Texas, oh my gosh, their barbecue is just next level. So if you ever see yourself,
actually, that came to my mind when I asked you about the states, you would say Texas.
Texas barbecue. Like there's really no comparison. Like they're just phenomenal. I can't remember the name of the barbecue joint I went to, but it's in Austin, and it's like I want to say world famous. They're like one of the best little barbecue joints there is. But I had a beef rib, a Wagyu beef rib, a single beef rib cost me like $63.
Oh wow! How big it was?
Oh, it was massive. It was like probably 1.5 pounds. And it was 100% worth it.
Is it worth it?
Oh, it was so worth
wow.
it. I even ordered a second meal of brisket. Like I bought 2 meals just
to go.
Yeah, I bought them to go. So I ate the big beef rib there while I was sitting, and then I brought the brisket with me for the road just because I wasn't going to hang around because the line to get into that place was probably 30 people, 40 people deep.
Oh wow!
Yeah, so it's like you got to be, especially around lunchtime, you got to be prepared to sit in the line. And thankfully they move it kind of quick. It's kind of like a cafeteria style. Like you just show up and you just say, I'd like this or this. But that joint was just phenomenal. And it's just a small place in Austin, Texas. I can't remember, but
I like that.
They have a lot of really good reviews.
Oh wow! I know Texas is famous about this, but we will back to Texas later. So now let's back to your road trip, the last one at least. The one you went out from Jacksonville, right? So because sometimes for me, even at least, I was thinking to do a road trip and I didn't know how I should go or where I should go. Like, should I go north, west, how, or where? So maybe you could help someone by telling us your details. So what you did exactly when you were leaving from Jacksonville?
So first off, I decided what part I wanted to just kind of experience. First part of the first leg of the trip, being that I left on December 4th of 2022, middle of winter. Florida, we don't have very harsh winters, but I had to kind of plan ahead for that one fact that if I had drove north, I would have been hitting potential bad weather, winter storms, whatever, for the mountains. So I decided to go out west across I-10. And I did that basically to kind of take advantage of the southern states having a little bit less harsher of a winter. And just kind of slowly get used to the harder winter that I was going to be experiencing, because my goal was eventually to go up the entire coast of the western coast into the Pacific Northwest, and middle of winter it's going to be pretty harsh over there. So I chose to go along the southern states. Nice. It stayed kind of relatively similar temperatures to here in Florida. I didn't experience any real temperature change until I got out to New Mexico. And it got cold in New Mexico, and I loved it.
Really?
Yes. Texas was still kind of, moderate temperatures, 70s during the day, 50s in the morning and stuff. It wasn't too bad.
Is Texas was your first stop?
No. So my first stop was a place in Florida. I went to this little private property off of Hip Camp. It was on the I can't remember the name of the river, and of course I would do that right now. But it was just somebody's private property I found on an app called Hip Camp. And Hip Camp is actually a very useful tool that I was using. It's a free app that you download, and you can just,
Hip Camp.
And it's kind of like Airbnb for private property. If you have like a couple acres of land, you can set up a designated camp spot for individuals to come and enjoy. Some of the hosts, they have like electricity and water and, camping hookups and all that kind of stuff. So it depends on what kind of tier camping you want to do. But the Hip Camp was, I chose a primitive style. So it was just something I could bring in with my camper, drop down and have fun. And it was right on the edge of a river. It was beautiful. So we stayed there for 2 nights, and after that we went to Beaumont, Texas, or Lumberton, Texas.
Okay.
So actually, I'm sorry, I got ahead of myself. Louisiana is before Texas.
Oh, yes.
I stopped in Louisiana,
Okay.
New Orleans.
Oh.
So that was the next state I went to, was basically New Orleans. I stayed at the French Riviera RV Resort, I think it was. Or it was right outside of the French district of the like the downtown part of New Orleans.
Okay.
And it was only a little 5-minute bike ride. Beautiful little place. The only negative of the spot I camped was it was right next to the Interstate I-10, so it was a little loud, but it was cheap. So it my budget, it fit perfectly.
Great for the budget.
But great for the budget. And I actually ran into some friends that just so happened to be in New Orleans the same weekend that I was there. And these are my oldest brother's childhood best friends. He lived right down the street from us. And I'm talking to my brother on the phone, and he's like, "Hey, Dale's in New Orleans with his family." I was like, "No shit, that's awesome." So I reached out to him, and we actually ended up connecting in New Orleans just randomly. And we walked around. I got to meet his family, his kids, his wife, and I ended up having dinner with them that night. We went to a restaurant called Creole.
Okay.
I think it's on the main drag in New Orleans, and everyone else's food was really good. I was a little disappointed with mine. Creole, you can do better. Come on now. I got blackened chicken jambalaya, and that's a Creole dish. I would think that it was actually very dry, very bland. So I was extremely disappointed with it, and I had major food envy. I'm looking at everybody else's food.
Everyone is having.
I'm like,
what do you have?
Yeah, it's like, you want to trade? Come on now. But we had a good night. After that, I loaded up my camp, and I actually had a little bit of an issue when I loaded up my camp. My trailer hitch, when I was trying to jack it up and everything, the crank on it broke. Ooh. And there was no way for me to get the trailer back onto my truck. So I had to figure out how to MacGyver it back onto my trailer hitch. And finally, I took my car jack out of my truck, and I used that to crank it up, drop it down. So I was able to figure it out. I went straight to a RV repair place, had them fix it, and then that's when I went to Texas, and I was heading to Lumberton. So I got into Lumberton, Texas, a state park in that area, and as I'm trying to set up my camp, I realized I can't find my keys anywhere. All of my keys for like the camping equipment, my camper, my generator locks, my toolbox, everything. I thought I lost it. Like I thought I put it on the tailgate or something or whatnot, like from leaving the RV place, and I thought I lost it on the road somewhere. So I had a kind of a mini meltdown, which was funny. I'm calling friends saying, "Hey, you might need to send me, my spare keys." Well, I went to Walmart and Ace Hardware, and I got new locks and bolt cutters, and I was like trying to do the process of getting everything. I cut open the lock on my toolbox, and my keys are sitting in my toolbox, and I felt like an idiot. Yeah. I'm laughing at myself at this point, but I was just like,
at least you didn't lost it, so it's
better. So I called everyone. It was like, "Hey, I found my keys." That moment, I actually went back out and I got all combo locks, like numbered combination locks, so that way I could get rid of as many keys as possible.
You don't need keys on the way now.
Nope, no more keys. So I did all combinations, put all of those combos in my phone, so I knew where I avoided that ever happening again, and thankfully it never did.
That's something you learn on the way,
Yeah.
When you are on the road, you learn this.
That's lessons. So I recommend if you go on a road trip and you have a lot of keys, get rid of them and change to combination locks. It'll save you some headache and heartache if you ever lose those keys.
That's good advice,
It is very good advice. But Texas was fun. We did some hiking in there. That was the first place that really felt different than Florida and Louisiana. Everything from Florida all the way to Louisiana kind of felt the same because flat swampland, it just felt the same. But once you got into Texas, East Texas, I started to feel like you can actually start to see elevation change and terrain, topography differences, and it just felt different. Okay. So that was the first place that I really kind of started to get excited. So my dogs and I, we went on a hike. And we're hiking around this really nice trail in the park that we're at, and I loaded them up with these little adventure backpacks, and I put all of their supplies in it because I'm not carrying their shit. They can work their own stuff.
You can do it better.
Yeah, so we only did about 3.5, maybe 4 miles of hiking that day. You would have swore these dogs they thought they hiked like a full-on marathon. They were just struggling.
Oh my God.
They're fat. They're out of shape. We're trying to change that. But
you spoiled them.
a little bit, yeah. Yeah, definitely spoiled them. I love them though, so I felt bad because my oldest dog Archer got bit by something on his inner thigh, and I didn't realize this until the very end of the hike, and he had chewed his entire thigh raw. And so I actually ended up having to carry him back a mile.
You didn't want to carry the stuff. Now you carry him and the stuff
because he couldn't walk. He would stop walking and just kind of sit there and stare at me, and you could just tell he had chewed himself so bad that he was bleeding on his inner thigh, and I didn't know what it was. I think he got bit by something, allergic reaction. But yeah, I had to carry a 60-pound dog back a mile over, hills and top, trains and stuff. And oh my gosh, that was a nightmare.
Sounds fun.
That was a nightmare. Texas was fun though.
Okay. And of course, the food was fun. The one we talked about. Yeah.
Yep. The food was great. I highly recommend anything Texas barbecue down there. They really know how to
Which cities you were in Texas?
So I went to Beaumont and Lumberton, and then I went into Austin. I drove through Dallas, but I didn't stay there. I didn't stay there. I just kind of drove through it, and then from there, I just actually went straight west into New Mexico.
Oh, okay.
Yeah, I just kind of left left Texas because once you get into Western Texas, it just becomes nothing but flatland and oil rigs, and it's got its own type of beauty to it. Mm-hmm. But there's really nothing to see.
Okay, makes sense.
Yeah, it's just hundreds of thousands of acres surrounding you, just nothing.
Just driving, really nothing to do.
I use Waze, the Waze GPS map, instead of using Google Maps. And I used the feature to turn off, I avoided all highways. Okay. So I took all back roads. So that was kind of pretty. Like I recommend
to see the back.
Yeah, okay. So I recommend anybody who's interested in, doing road trips, turn off the highway part of your app and just like set a destination and take the back roads. It's beautiful. Like
the highway will be boring, especially for a long ride.
Yeah, you see the country and you see people's farmlands, and it's a different type of beautiful. Okay. So I really enjoyed it. And then again, once I got into New Mexico, it just became desert, and that was still beautiful, but there's still nothing around.
Okay. So you stayed in New Mexico or just?
I stayed in New Mexico. I stayed in a really fun place was called Mescalero Sand Dunes, off highway vehicle place. It's like an off-roading park for four-wheelers or dirt bikes or trucks that you've equipped to be off-road.
You need to be equipped to go there.
Oh yeah, it's a full-on sand dune park, like heavy duty sand dunes, like
but sound fun to see.
Oh, it was beautiful. It was I wanted to take my truck and go over it because I had a big Ram 1500 4x4 with the proper tires and lifts and everything for it.
You're ready.
I wanted to go out there, but I was afraid of getting stuck because sand is a whole nother monster whenever you're doing off-roading. So it's better to have somebody with you just in case you get stuck. You can have them pull you out. So I didn't actually do any off-roading in the park, but we did set up a nice camp and had a nice big bonfire. I put up a hammock between the little poles at this little gazebo that they had, and we just sat there, had some dinner, and hung out. One of the best things about that place was just the night sky. Being that it was winter, it was a lot more of a clear, crisp night sky, and you could see the stars and the Milky Way galaxy.
At night.
Yeah, it was crazy. I'd never seen the Milky Way galaxy before. Like
you could see,
those pictures you see online of like the Milky Way galaxy, and it just looks stunning. Oh wow! I actually got to witness part of that, and I was watching the Milky Way galaxy shift and change directions in the night sky. And I took out my air mattress and my big winter blanket, and I just laid out on my air mattress in the middle of the desert, just watching shooting stars and satellites and just the Milky Way galaxy above.
That sounds a really good place to go. What's the name again?
Mescalero Sand Dunes,
off
highway vehicle park.
Okay.
OHV is what it's called.
I really like this idea to go like camping or doing whatever there, and it's good to see all of the stuff.
It's I want to say it's about 30 miles or 40 miles east of Roswell, New Mexico. So whatever road, like main highway, goes straight east out of Roswell, New Mexico, that'll take you directly to the Mescalero Sand Dunes Park.
The view you just described to me, I can imagine it. It looks amazing at night to like spend the night there, you know?
It was one of the most beautiful sunsets I've ever seen too.
Oh, wow.
Because a desert sunset and sunrise, you get so much more orange and like reds and stuff like that. It's just stunning. Plus, you had a little bit of mountains in the background that you could see. Like it was just,
good view.
Yeah, you were just starting to get to the point where you could see mountains. That was another thing about New Mexico that blew me away was I'd been to New Mexico, but I had no idea they had mountains the way they do. Wow. Western New Mexico's mountains are just stunning. You start to get into the Gila National Forest, which is right on the Arizona-New Mexico border. Yeah. So it's kind of like northwest corner-ish of New Mexico. And the mountains right there are just huge. We went to a place called the Gila Cliff Dwellings. It's these giant stone carved buildings into the edge of like these mountains, and they'd been there for hundreds, thousands of years, I believe. They're just basically living space carved into a side of a mountain that people used to call home.
Oh wow!
Another cool thing was they had hot springs that are not even 5 minutes from that place, and you can camp right on the hot springs, and it was $10 a night.
Oh wow!
So you had
love that.
Yeah, you had a nice, beautiful river, big mountain right next to it, and then you had these just picturesque hot springs right there, and the people were so nice. Funny part was when you're coming into the Gila Hot Springs. You actually have to pass through somebody's private farm to get to it.
Okay.
Yeah, it was a little.
It
was a little strange at first because
especially you're from Florida,
so that was the strange part was like Floridians and people in the South, we look at gates as do not enter. This is someone
they will shoot you.
Exactly. Like the South is not too friendly when you cross on their property, but out there they call them livestock gates.
Oh, okay.
And I had my big truck and my trailer, and I pulled down this road, and the road was so narrow that I got a little nervous already because it was on a steep decline road. I have livestock left and right of me, literally goats and horses just staring at me, maybe like 6 inches, 10 inches away from me on each side. And I'm pulling up to this gate, and I'm like, shit. Where do I go?
Should I go?
Yeah, it's like, where do I go? I'm kind of stuck. So
I come in peace.
I didn't get out of the truck and read the sign on the gate that said, please shut after opening.
Okay.
Had I gotten, so what I ended up doing was I backed my truck and my trailer out all the way back up. And then I went up the road.
Back up with the trailer and everything.
Yeah, it was. So I don't know if you've ever backed up a trailer.
There's a drive test.
That's a test of your skill right there. Like backing up a trailer, especially going uphill and that was a test of my skills. And I'd like to say I'm now an expert at backing up a trailer.
Okay.
But I backed out safely. I got out of that area and I went up the road to another RV spot to I was going to camp there, but I got talking to the host of that campground, and I asked them about the hot springs, and they said, "Oh yeah, you were in the right spot." They allowed me to drop my camper and just drive my truck back there, so it was easier to navigate at first, just to kind of see it. So I went back through it, and I get out to the gate, and it did say exactly that. It says, "Livestock gate, please shut after opening."
So next advice: read the notes.
Right. read the writing on the wall, please. So I open up the gate. I drive through, and then I shut the gate, and there's the hot spring. So I go up there, and I'm talking to the host of the guy who runs the camp and everything, and he's like, "Yeah, just come on in, blah blah blah." And I went and picked up my trailer again, and $10 for two. I did 2 nights there, and I mean $20 at a hot spring. It was perfect.
Wow, I love that.
It got cold too that night.
Really?
3 degrees. Yeah. And I didn't use a generator or a space heater or anything. That night I woke up, the entire inside of my camper was frozen.
Oh, Frozen. Like a real
frozen, like actual ice on the walls everywhere. It was from the your humidity and your breathing from me and the dogs. So we stayed plenty warm. I have a big down comforter, and like I have an electric blanket that I could plug into a power inverter that I put in for the dog. So like we all stayed plenty warm, but I didn't want to get out.
Our view was
I didn't want to get out from under the blanket. It sucked. And again, I like the cold, but I don't like being cold.
Yeah, that's inside the freezer.
There's a big difference. Yeah. So I'm sitting there taking videos of the ice on the walls and the framing of the window and everything. And it's just like a nice thin layer of ice everywhere. So that morning I decided, yeah, Chris, we're never not gonna camp like that again in this kind of weather.
At least you learn.
Yeah,
something you really learn from on the way,
Yeah, so it was still fun. It was an experience. It was also so muddy though. Like they had gotten some snow that had melted and stuff. So the camp area that I was at had a lot of mud on the ground. So it was kind of annoying. The other camp spots were in way better like shape as far as like no mud. It was dry. It was good, like rock. They had put down some gravel. So I do recommend it. Gila Hot Springs and the Gila Cliff Dwellings. It's a beautiful place. If you ever see yourself in New Mexico, go.
Okay. That's a good idea.
Yep.
So what next after
New Mexico? Next would be Arizona. We went into it was called Alpine Divide Campground, and it was basically just over the border of New Mexico, Arizona. It was about 30 to 40 minutes east of Pine Top and Show Low, and it was up in the mountains. We camped there basically over the course of Christmas. I got in there, I want to say, on December 22nd, and we didn't leave until the 26th or the 27th. And what I loved about that spot was it finally had some snow on the ground, like actual snow. But the best part was the campground that we stayed at, no snow. Like we got lucky. Like there was no snow in the area that we were actually camping and walking around. And it was not muddy or anything. So that was really convenient. That it didn't make a mess for me to have to clean up, like when I was trying to go in and out of my camper, or I'd have to wipe down the dog paws and whatnot. But what I loved about it was nestled into the edge of the mountains with trails and roads that you could drive around and explore, and you could get lost, like in a good way, get lost just doing nature drives and stuff.
Okay.
And that's exactly what I did. Was I put my dogs in the camper because I learned that they don't really like the rocking back and forth.
They're not good with it.
No, it's like, you ever seen a dog on a boat? Their sea legs. That's kind of how they acted. They were just like bouncing around, uncomfortable.
It's not fun for them.
It wasn't fun for them. But I put them back in the truck, in the trailer, and I just went back out, and I got lost for about 3.5 hours. Just driving around back roads in the mountains. And it was exciting, though, because I was going through like little streams and creeks and over patches of ice and boulders, and like it was real off-roading. Okay. And it was just exciting.
You really wanted to have this experience.
Yes, I did. I've got videos of some of the trails that I went down.
Do you have these videos, like you posted somewhere?
I did it on my Instagram. I made an Instagram account just for the road trip and all of my future road trips.
Okay. What's the name of it?
It's Road Trippin' 24/7, and there's no G on the end. It's Road Trippin'.
Okay.
Yep, 24/7.
Okay.
And
I will add it in the description also for anyone wanna add Chris or following Chris for the all road trips. It will help.
It's got pictures, videos, locations I camped. It would be a good, kind of information for anybody who's interested.
That would help for sure. Yeah.
But the videos that I grabbed were just fun, and there's some spots that I would go out and just walk around as well. I ended up calling it quits though on one road, because as I came around the corner, it turned into a very steep incline, and the whole road was iced over with basketball-sized boulders or rocks littering the road, and there was no safe way of going up it. And then on the side of the road, on both sides of the road, you had a big incline on one side, and then you have a massive drop on the other. And the road was barely big enough for my truck to make it up it in the first place. So if you hit any of that ice and you shift, my tire could have gone over the edge and I would have dropped maybe a couple 100 feet, maybe 300-400 feet. And so I decided, play it safe, and I backed down.
Go back.
Yeah, that was the second day, and I had already done probably 4 or 5 hours, 6 hours total of road tripping through those mountains. I found a really nice mountaintop that I decided to get out of the truck and hike up to the top of. I didn't plan very well. I was wearing sweatpants, and I just didn't plan it. But I was like, screw it, I'm going to climb that mountain. So
wasn't a good idea.
The start, I made it. I got up there. It took me like an hour and 20 minutes though. But it started at like 7,200 feet in elevation. And by the time I got to the top, I checked my little GPS map, and I was at 9,400 feet in elevation. It was probably only a mile and a half climb. So that's a huge incline for that. It felt like a big one. I mean, I'm a Floridian, so I'm used to flat land.
You didn't see that much,
Yeah, so I got to the top, had some, took some pictures, took a good minute to breathe, catch my breath. The return down trip was so much easier. Gravity helped.
Easier, yeah.
Gravity helped. After that, though, we just kind of loaded up camp, and we just kept going. From there, we went into Las Vegas.
Oh,
yeah.
Okay.
I had 2 nights on the Strip, and that was a good fun time. I just kind of walked around. I'd never been to Vegas before.
Okay.
So I just walked around, had some fun, gambled.
You see some city vibe, not all the mountains or road trip stuff.
Yep. I lost some money. Damn
it's
it.
a Vegas. What happened in Vegas?
Yeah, damn it. I met some fun people there, though. A couple from California. They were there for setting up a New Year's event. They were I think they did costumes and prop work for one of the shows that was happening. And they were a younger couple. They were super kind and stuff. I was going to try to meet up with them in California because they were in LA where my family. I have a aunt and uncle that live down there. So we were going to try to meet up, but they had some family stuff that came up that I wasn't able to connect. But it was still just a good experience.
I think this is the best part of being on road trip. You meeting people, you just bumping into people you know or you don't know, just make a new friends or maybe one day friend and just leave. This is the best about it, I like it.
I like talking with people and meeting people and hearing their stories, and so it was definitely something I enjoyed throughout the road trip process. It got a little lonely, of course. The periods where I didn't talk to people or didn't see people. You can't help but get a little lonely. But
actually, I was going to ask about this. If you are a very social guy, you're gonna feel lonely on the way, right?
Definitely. But I've learned throughout my life to enjoy my own company. I can be alone and be just fine.
Okay. But you felt lonely there?
Slightly. There are some times that it did feel a little lonely just because, I left around the holidays. I didn't have any family for, Christmas, New Year's. I spent New Year's New Year's Eve and New Year's Day in a Walmart parking lot.
Oh, okay.
Yeah, just because I wanted to get out of out of Las Vegas, which is kind of silly. Why wouldn't I have spent
it in Las Vegas easier?
I got out of there because of the fireworks. I didn't want my dogs to freak out.
Oh, okay.
So we left Vegas for that intention of I didn't want my dogs to freak out from the fireworks. We went to Joshua Tree. As soon as we left Vegas, we went to Joshua Tree, and we did some hiking around that area, and then we ended up at the Walmart parking lot, and it was nice and quiet, so the dogs didn't have any freak out moments.
Oh, okay.
And now at that point, I was in Southern California, and next day I went and visited my aunt and uncle, and I hadn't seen them since I was probably 8 years old.
Oh, wow, that's a long time.
Yeah, it's been a long time since I've seen them. I just never went to LA again. Southern California is not really my vibe. It's too big of a city, too fast pace. I prefer a little bit slower pace. So Northern California is just absolutely beautiful. Lots of mountains and trees and forest and stuff.
You always attached to the mountains or this kind of life more than
always
beach or whatever.
The mountains are my happy place.
Okay,
anytime I need to escape to just kind of reset myself, I go to the mountains. Some people go to the beach, some people go on the lakes or boating. Mine's the mountains. There's just something about the fresh air, the scenery, the nature, just being up high and seeing out. It just, for me, it humbles me.
Okay.
My problems just kind of melt away. So that's a good reset for me, and that's what I've always focused on. I don't know why I've been drawn to the mountains, but since I was a child, the mountains have always
This is
been
your happy place, I guess.
it's been a mysterious place that I've just always enjoyed. So I was very lucky to go to all the places I've gone. So
That's really good. Yeah.
once I got into California, I ended up driving basically the Sierra Nevada mountains from start to finish.
Which cities you been in California exactly?
So California, when I got there, we started off in LA, and then from LA, I cut back east and went through basically the southern part of the Sierra Nevada mountains, and went straight up the mountains until I got to Sacramento.
Okay.
I stopped in San Francisco as well, but then I only stayed in San Francisco for maybe 4 or 5 hours just because I didn't feel like camping there. I had some friends and friends from childhood that live in Sacramento. That's where I was born. And once we went from the Joshua Tree in southern California into the southern Sierra Nevada mountains, and we did like Kings Canyon and the sequoias, the giant sequoia trees, and just a lot of beautiful scenery up there. But we went from LA all the way up into San Francisco, and then I detoured back into Sacramento and stayed there for a few weeks. I had
few weeks.
Yeah, well, I think it was like 12 days.
Okay.
Yeah, during a storm one morning at like 4:00 in the morning, I did something. It's called boondocking, camping on the side of the road, just like a random place. There was a massive storm that came through, and I was in Stockton. I had camped in.
You had to stay there.
I had to, just because it was too late. So I pulled over on the side of a road next to like a Boys and Girls Club, like a baseball park, and the storm rolls in at like 3:30, 4:00 in the morning, and I go to close my window on my camper, and the window had got stuck from like some debris or like pebbles or dirt in the track, and it wasn't closing easily. So when I finally got it closed, it slammed shut so hard that the entire window just shattered, thousands of pieces in the middle of a storm. I'm sitting there like, oh gosh, I'm gonna have to call this quits. This is the end of the road trip. That was the immediate first thought.
You said you were gonna end the road trip.
Yeah, I thought it was because I was like, I have a broken window. I have to fix it. Well, I got up, still pissing down rain. I taped a trash bag around the outside and on the inside to make it weatherproof, and I just went right back to bed. And from there, that's when I went into San Francisco, and then also back into Sacramento. When I got to Sacramento, I stayed there for like 12 days because the family friend that I randomly just showed up uninvited to their door. Didn't even tell them I was arriving. I knock
again. That's a good. It's not Florida.
Well, these are the nicest people you could imagine, and like I knock on their door. It was a Sunday afternoon, and she opens the door and she just goes, "Oh my gosh, Chris, what are you doing here?" And she welcomes me in, and it happened to be her like 45th wedding anniversary that day.
Oh, really? Same day?
Same day.
Okay.
So they were kind enough to let me stay there. I told them the story of what had happened with the broken window, and they're like, "You're staying with us until this is fixed." So
that's so nice.
Yeah. So I stayed their house for like, I think it was 10 or 11 days, maybe 12 days.
Oh, wow.
And I ordered the window, fixed it at their house, and then I hit the road again. From there, I went into Lake Tahoe, which is kind of northeast of Sacramento, right on the Nevada border. And I just did a nice little loop around Lake Tahoe. I think there's a beach on the northern edge called Kings Beach. I tried to do a full loop around Lake Tahoe, but during winter, I want to say the east, like part of the road on the eastern or the western side of the lake is closed down because they don't maintain it during the winter. And the snow, especially that year, it was like one of the worst winters they've seen in a long time. They were getting crazy amounts of snow in the mountains. Like I think someone said close to like 50 feet over the course of a weekend or something like that.
Oh wow.
So yeah, just massive amounts of snow and rain.
It's like for a long time it never been like this.
Yeah,
That's crazy effect.
It's yeah, it was crazy because the last time I remember California getting any significant amount of rain was back in like 1994 when I lived there, and it was the same thing: flooding, monsoon rains, just crazy everything, crazy weather. And they'd been going through a drought for so many years, decades, I believe. They're saying, "Oh, we need water." Well, they got it. They got water.
Get more than water.
Tons of flooding. Tons and tons of flooding, and it actually contributed to like roads getting washed away, boulders coming down, and then when up in the mountains, it would snow heavy, really heavy, and then it would warm up, and the snow would melt, but then it would freeze again. So you would have patches of ice and snow, and it was kind of like a nightmare scenario.
Yeah.
I'm very lucky that I didn't have any accidents. I did help a few people in California get unstuck. One of the first, I helped 3 different vehicles. This car with a couple girls and their dogs. They decided, we have to go to the bathroom in a front wheel drive Toyota Camry, I think it was, and they pull off the road into a snow embankment, just the side of the road, and they just pulled right into the snow, and they got stuck.
Oh,
so I pull around the corner and I see him waving me down for help. And my first question was, "What were you thinking?" They're like, "We didn't think." So myself and another gentleman pulled over, and we ended up helping them get out.
Okay.
And that was easy. The second lady was up by Kings Canyon and the Sequoia Forest. And she had actually been there with her daughter in a camper van on the side of the road for 2 days, and nobody had stopped to help. Nobody would stop to help her. 2 days. Nobody would stop to help her. And it just so happens that day that I just so happened to pull over to put a jacket on because I like to ride with my windows down.
You didn't even see her.
Well, no, I saw her.
Okay.
I just didn't really think anything of it. But as I'm, putting my jacket on, I noticed this older lady just come running out of her van, waving at me like, "Hey, help, blah, blah, blah." So I rolled down my window and she's like, "Hey, can you please help us? We've been stuck for the last 2 days. Nobody has stopped to help us."
Oh my God.
Yeah. I was like, that's kind of
2
days.
Days. That's crazy.
And it was cold weather. Thankfully, they were, plenty safe in their little RV camper or whatever it was. But I helped her put on some tire chains and like kind of guided her out of that area, and there was no problems. That was
why she was out there.
She was just doing a road trip with her daughter as well.
You need to be like, I think this is a good advice. You need to be really prepared before you go for a road trip, because that can happen to anyone,
Yeah.
Especially if you are not really don't know what you are doing.
You got to be prepared and careful, and you got to know, you're going to run into scenarios that you're unexpected, and you need to just have plan for the worst.
Yeah.
And that's what I did. I had every possible recovery method, off-road, items that I would need for my truck should I personally get into trouble. And thankfully, I never had an issue.
Yeah, imagine the worst and be prepared for it.
Yeah.
That's it.
So helped her out. And then the worst one out of the 3 was this younger kid. He wasn't even speeding or anything. We were going up a mountain, and I let him pass me. Like it was because I'm hauling a trailer going through bad conditions, ice on the road.
You're not speeding.
I'm not speeding. I'm actually going about 10 miles an hour under the speed limit. Okay. And so I let him pass me. Well, 10-15 minutes later, I'm coming around a curve, and he is over the edge of the road in a ditch with the front of his vehicle into the mountain. And he just happened to hit a patch of ice and just kept, when he tried to turn, it just kept going straight. Yeah. So it was at a very bad spot because the curve was at a downward slope, and that's what caused it. Was he was going down, and as he turned, it just kept going straight. So I pulled over, I dropped my trailer, and I turned around, and I had to hook up my tow winch and pull him out. But the dangerous thing about it was at that curve, which was a very busy intersection, or an intersection. It was just a very busy part of the road because trucks, like semi-trucks and other tourists and road tripping, like people were just constantly going around it. So it was a little scary for all of us trying to pull him out of there. And thankfully I was able to get him out. He didn't have any significant damage to the vehicle. And that's
Wow,
how I
he's
know.
lucky.
And that's how I know he wasn't speeding, was because there was no damage to the vehicle other than just a little bit of a dent on his front bumper, and his license plate was bent.
Mhm.
If he was going fast, his vehicle would have had a little bit more damage than what was
Could be
present on
way
it.
bad.
So we got him out. We exchanged information, and he was a really nice kid. But I was very grateful for the fact that I never experienced any accidents on myself.
Especially at this weather and in this kind of roads, you really need to slow down and know what you're doing.
Yeah.
You don't need really to speed at this time.
Yeah.
But
I mean, have you ever been out into that area?
no, not this area. I have a stories like this. When you said the dune in New Mexico, it brought me a story in my mind. I had a very stupid idea, and I wasn't prepared. When I was living in Qatar, I had a friend. He wanted to go. We used to go camping, but we had a very nice place. I don't remember the name now. I think it's named Umbab. Okay, Umbab. It's between the borders, very close to Saudi, but it's still in Qatar. So you go there. It's a mountain like dunes, very very soft sand, and the mountains like this, or the sand mountain, and the beach in front of it.
Oh,
So it's an amazing view. We go to camp exactly in front of the beach, and behind you is a mountain. So to go there, you really need to get into a very sandy dune and a big mountain, stuff like this. At this time, I had a Toyota Yaris. Okay, so I can't really go with Toyota Yaris to this kind of places. But my friend had a Hammer, big car, and he said, yeah, I can go and all of this. So I said, okay, but we were too many. So I said, you know what? I don't know why it came to my mind that can work. He said, okay, I will go in front of you to like make the road
packed it down.
Yeah, for you, and then you come behind me. So I said, yeah, let's do it. Didn't work. But so he get in front of me. I think he was so happy being in the sand or something, so he forgot I'm behind him. So he goes so fast and start like enjoying it on the way, and I'm behind him. Bitch, come on, I'm here.
He just forgot you. He was like, good luck.
Yeah, so after like 2 minutes, the car will never walk like driving this way. So I got stuck in the sand. And we were really not prepared. Even him, he didn't have a rope or anything to pull me up. So we tried all the kind of stuff you come to your mind. You have to bring like, something behind the wheel and go back and all of this stuff. Doesn't work. Do it with your hand ditch to go back. Didn't work. So you know what we did? I locked up the car until the next morning. So I looked up, I left it in the desert. I went back, like my friend drive my friends to the place we're gonna camp, and he come back to me, took me, and the 3 guys were with me, and we went there and left it in the desert for the whole night, enjoyed the night. But next morning we go back, stand next to it. I found a very good friend of mine. He was driving also by coincidence there. So I stopped him. Hey, can you help us? He said, oh, what you doing here? I said, this is a story I'm gonna tell later, but pull me up. So he really pulled me up easily, and we left. So when he was saying that, I said, oh, I know, I'm familiar with this story,
That was the fear I had. Like, even with 4-wheel drive, you can get stuck. I mean, heck, when I first bought my truck, I was so excited to try the 4-wheel out, because I'd never had a vehicle with 4-wheel drive before this truck. And I was driving around in northern Florida, around Callahan, Yulee area, and I had some time to kill between my next jobs. So I pulled off into the state park that I know has some pretty fun roads to drive. Even though they are maintained roads, they're still dirt, and there's still, lots of mud. And it's a fun place to drive. So I was like, all right, I'll try going out there. Well, the very first time I went into that park, as you come in, there's this little turnoff that it looked like a road. And my brain was like, Chris, you should do it. You should totally do it.
Don't ever listen to that.
Yeah, I didn't that time. I was like, Chris, just go drive around like the places you already know. Well, I went back to that. And the day I went back to that, I drove past it, and the same thought in my head, Chris, do it. Well, this time I didn't listen to logic, and I was like, fuck it, I'm going to do it. And I stopped, backed up, and I turned in. And as soon as you turn into it, there are these massive, like 2-foot deep divots in the mud from someone else going in there. So it's soft mud and So I made sure to drive on top of those divots to like not get down into those ruts, and I made it across it, no problem. Get back into the trail. Well, the trail had started to get super narrow, and lots of tree branches were starting to hit my car, and I still had that new car feeling. Like I wasn't ready to quite scratch her up.
Okay.
But to me, a truck is you get a truck really like.
You feel powerful.
Not powerful. It's just, to me, a truck is a tool. It's a work vehicle. Like she's gonna get dirty. She's gonna get scratched up. Like, but I had just bought it, and I hadn't gotten rid of that feeling of like I'm not ready to let her get scratched up yet.
Okay.
So once it got really narrow, I was like, "Fuck, I got to turn around. There's nowhere to turn around. I got to back up." So I'm sitting there backing up this road, and I'm like a mile in already. So I'm backing up slow, and I knew as soon as I got back to the entrance, I'm going to have to figure out how to get past that spot right there. So I was like, okay, ride the top of it just the way I did, but I'm going to need a little bit more speed to get through it in case I slip in. Well, I went with a little bit more speed. My tires slipped into the ruts. And I didn't have enough speed to get out of it. So I completely bottomed out my truck in those ruts, and I got stuck in a 4-wheel drive vehicle.
It happened. I saw it a lot.
I was 10 feet away from the main road too, like the entrance. So I'm sitting there on the back of my tailgate.
Anyone to come like
I'm sitting there on the tailgate, and I already called a truck to a tow truck to come pull me out, and they tell me, "Oh, you're in a special place. We're going to need a heavy wrecker, blah blah blah." So there's already an upcharge. Cost me $350 for 15 minutes of work from them. And
you are very close to the door
10 feet, to the gate, 10 feet. And the even worse part about it was, as I'm sitting there waiting, one of the state forestry guys comes driving down the road, and two trucks pass me. Well, one of them has a winch on the front of their vehicle and everything, and they both drive past me at first, but then the second truck stops and backs up. He gets out of the truck, and I'm still sitting on the tailgate just waiting, and he looks at me and goes, "What are you doing?" And I'm just like, "Well, I'm currently waiting for a tow truck." Yeah. He's like, "No, that's not what I meant." "What the fuck were you thinking? That's not a road." And I was like, "Well, sir, there's no sign on here that says no, this is not a road. And you can actually see from GPS satellite, this looks like a road." So he immediately calls the state troopers, the police, and he's like, "I have to report you." I'm like,
"Really?"
"Yeah."
"Report you?"
"Report me. Destruction of state property."
Oh.
Yeah. So
East Florida.
He calls out the state trooper, and he's like, "All right, the guy's on his way. If your tow truck gets here before the police officer does, you'll avoid a ticket. If the cop gets here, you're going to get a ticket." Well, the cop got there first. And the forestry guy tells the cop that I am combative and fighting him and argumentative and just all of this attitude. And I'm like, I didn't give him any attitude. I just told him, it's like, this doesn't have any sign up that says this, do not enter, do not drive. I was like, and I said it looks like a road from satellite GPS. Like, that's all I said. Well, the cop was like, "I'm just telling you what he said, blah, blah, blah. Here's your ticket." So I got a ticket for, I think it was $65 or something like that. For
besides the towing.
On top of the tow thing. So yeah, 4-wheel drive does not mean you're going to be able to get through everything. And I mean, I actually have pictures of my truck completely bottomed out, and it's just funny. So that was my very first experience really doing it. So that's what I wanted to avoid in the desert.
Yeah. It's not easy, you know.
Plus, I didn't have anyone to come help me, and there was very limited cell phone signal out there. I would have been fucked. So, anyways, where were we though?
I don't even remember. We were out of California.
California. Tahoe. We were up in Tahoe area. Yes. So yeah, Tahoe was just beautiful, and it was just crazy amounts of snow. And so from there, we went up through Shasta National Forest and the Trinity Forest over to the Pacific Coast, and that from there, that's when I started to hug the Pacific coastline, and went through the Redwood Forest, camped a couple spots on the beach. The Pacific coastline and once you get into the Pacific Northwest, it is just, again, a beautiful area, giant boulders and rocks all across the beach. Waterfalls right at the right at the edge. The waterfall dumps into the ocean. Like it doesn't get much prettier. And so we camped along the ocean's edge at a couple spots, and we just kind of took our time. I went to a couple restaurants up there, nothing worth mentioning, but met some locals. And then from there, we went to Crater Lake National Park in Oregon.
Okay. Oh, Oregon.
It's this giant, it's this lake at the top of a volcanic mountain, and it's just another.
Sounds good.
Yeah, it's just another beautiful place.
You've been in too many states, even in one trip, because
the total
in Oregon. So.
Yeah, the total trip it was 15,000 miles and 22 states.
22 states.
22 states.
One road trip.
One road trip. Over the course of 3 months. So it's kind of fast. I just kind of kept driving everywhere.
Yeah, you don't need to stay in everywhere.
The goal for me was just to kind of explore. I used it to kind of figure out where I wanted to possibly move to next, what would catch my eye. And from the trip, what really did catch my eye was Montana. Like I would love to live in Montana or Idaho, like somewhere in the northern Rockies. It's just that's where I feel like I would fit in the best.
Okay.
But Oregon was a beautiful place. I visited some friends in there, and they were nice enough to let me put my trailer in their camp in their driveway, and they took me out to dinner, and we just reconnected. There were some friends that actually were from here in Jacksonville, and he's been in Oregon for, I think it was the Portland area. He'd been in Oregon for the last 13 years, so I haven't seen him in quite a while. But it was nice reconnecting with that friend. And then on the other side of the border, just in Washington, I visited with another childhood friend that I hadn't seen in a long time. We grabbed some drinks and dinner, and then same thing, I camped in her driveway, and then I just kind of kept going on my way.
Where this trip end? Like how many states you been after all of this, and where it end?
It ended back in Florida.
So of course you came back, but when you felt like okay, I'm stuck.
Oh, when did I?
You said I'm done.
That would probably be Colorado. So before I got to Colorado, I went up into Washington State, and I did the Pacific Northwest and stuff. Cape Flattery, it's the northwestmost point of the continental United States, and just beautiful trails, hiking, very picturesque. And as I'm coming back down through that, I stopped in Idaho and Montana, and from Montana, I went to Yellowstone and a couple places, but I went into Colorado, went snowboarding with my friend, and basically that was the day that was the time that I started to feel, okay, I'm reaching my limit, because I actually got sick in Colorado. Okay. And I got strep throat for the first time in my life. Never in my life had strep throat. And my buddy PJ and we went snowboarding
in Colorado.
In Colorado, most fun I'd had snowboarding ever. It was just such a perfect time. From Colorado, once I started to feel sick, I knew it was going to be bad, because when I get sick, it takes a lot for me to kind of tap out. I couldn't. I had 101 fever, 102 fever. Oh my God. Yeah, my throat was so bad that I couldn't talk. So I had to call it quits. Yeah. And so basically from Colorado, I drove straight east, didn't stop until I got into, what was it? Missouri, St. Louis area. Okay. And then I stopped there, went to a doctor because it was so bad that I needed to get some antibiotics. And then from there, I picked one more camp spot, and I don't even remember where it was. It was just on basically, on the way. Yeah, it was just a straight line from Missouri to Florida, and that was kind of that whole trip. But it's an amazing road trip. It was an incredible trip. Yeah. I set a goal for myself when I was younger. When I hit 30, I'm 35 now. When I turned 30, I set a goal to try to hit 100,000 miles of road trip in the United States before I turned 40. Okay. And so far, I'm roughly halfway. 30. I'm at 40 or 55,000 miles or so of road trips. I've done, all the way up through upstate New York, the Catskills, the Adirondacks, Poconos, the Blue Ridge Mountains. I've hit pretty much every major mountain range in North America or in the United States, and the Rocky Mountains are always going to have a special place. Though it's just they're just so much more extreme and just beautiful.
So you start road tripping or start be on the road since you became 30? Like when you turned 30, you said this is a goal I want to do?
That's when I started to count. Like that's when I started to kind of document things better. But no, I've easily done over 100,000 miles of road trip total in my life already.
But after 30, that was a goal.
It was a goal that I had created, and I wanted to do it myself. Like I did a 3,000 mile road trip years ago from Colorado. I flew into Denver, stayed with my friend PJ again, and from Denver, we drove from Denver, Colorado to Mount Rushmore in Rapid City, South Dakota. And then from South Dakota, we went straight back down all the way to El Paso, Texas.
Oh, okay.
And then back up through the Southern Rockies into Denver. And we took all back roads the whole way. And the total road trip came out for that for I think it was 2,800 miles. Over the course of 3 days too. We did it real fast.
That's a lot.
Yes, it was.
That's a lot of road trips.
We almost got lost, in a bad way. My buddy's GPS said take this road for a quick detour, and it was middle of winter. It was New Year's Day, and he takes this road. It was actually a road that was public land or public access or whatever, but it got decommissioned and back into private land or something, and the gate was left open. So Google still recognized it as a road and said, take this road. Well, it was a bad idea. We ended up driving probably another 2.5, 3 hours through about 2 to 3 feet of snow. And I don't even know how we found or drove the proper direction, because there was no indication that we were on a road in any way, shape, manner, or form. We were just driving in a certain direction. And once we got out of it, we ended at a ranger station on the other end in the Valles Caldera, which is part of this was in New Mexico. It's a super volcano crater. And once we get out of it, we go to the ranger station, and we walk in. We're asking for directions, and they're like, "Hey, where'd you guys come from?" And we told them, and both people in the office were like, "You came from where?" Oh yeah, that's really dumb, because that road's off limits in winter. Nobody uses it. We wouldn't have we would have had to call special rescue to get you.
Oh wow.
Yeah. So we were just like, oh, that's so cool.
Glad we made it.
Yeah. Knock on wood. But road tripping has just always been a fun, really special thing for me.
Especially with a mountain and stuff. I feel like from what I hear from all these road trips and stuff, you're really into mountains. So what you doing in Florida?
Oh, not doing anything anymore. I'm moving to Tennessee.
Yeah, I know that.
I'm moving to Tennessee. I just bought a new house in northeast Tennessee. It's right on the North Carolina-Tennessee border. So I'm going to be enjoying the mountain life permanently.
So you decided you are done with Florida?
I'm done with Florida. I need some mountains, and I need to be able to easily go hiking and waterfalls and just the outdoors up there. It's just more who I am.
Yeah, I feel this is where you belong.
Yes, it is.
So how long you been in Florida?
27 years. This year, if I'd stayed until June of this year, it'd be 28 years.
Oh,
I moved here in 1996. So yeah, I think that's going on 28 years.
And now you decided you're done.
I'm done.
Even after almost 28 years, you still didn't feel it's where you are belong.
Florida has never truly felt like home to me. I got pulled here when I was younger.
Okay.
And I've enjoyed it, but I feel like I've experienced all Florida has to offer. I've done all of the fishing, I've done all of the hiking in the areas here. I've been to the Bahamas, I've been all over the state, and there's just not really much left that I want to do here.
Yeah, okay.
So I feel it's time for a new adventure, and Tennessee has always been a place that's captured.
Can give you this feelings.
I grew up going to Tennessee as a kid. Family would go up there, and we just had a lot of fun. So besides the fact that it's affordable, it's just that's pretty much it.
It has all the mountains you
want.
It has everything you need.
Yep.
So you said something about after 28 years in Florida, you didn't feel home.
Nope.
Really? So what is home for you?
Home to me is, I don't know. I've tried to, think of like where my family is, but my family all lives here in Florida in Jacksonville, my mom's side at least. I just have never felt a connection to this area. Florida has just always felt like I've been trapped here. I've been stuck here because I want to stay near my family. I used to own a business, and that kept me here. And I don't know. I've just home to me has always been mountains. That's just kind of where I've always felt I belong. It allows me to disappear when I need to clear my head. It allows me to go on hikes. I can go see waterfalls, and I can do hunting or fishing or hiking anytime I want. A lot easier than you could here in Florida. Florida is just all flat land, and it's hot, and it's palm fronds and thorns and thistle. It's a different type of environment, and I've just never felt at home or comfortable here. I've just kind of tolerated it, put up with it, and it's not a dig at Florida. It's just it's never been a good fit for me.
I can understand that. I usually like to ask this question: what is home for everyone? Because everyone has a different answer. Some people would say, "Oh, my home where I grow up," or "My home where is my mom and dad," and this kind of feelings. Someone would say, and I would say that where I feel comfortable and I make my own family. This would be my home. So what is this kind of home you have? Is
home to me, that in that kind of context, I would say home for me is where I feel most at peace, where I feel most like myself, most comfortable, wanting to put down roots and grow and just learn more about myself. And that's, to me, what home is.
I kind of understand what you mean, because I would say home to me is when I open my door and I feel like I'm home. You know, like this is where my comfort zone, my peace zone, and I really feel this is home for me. The feeling of it, not around the people or not around a place or because I grow up here. No, the home, the feeling I'm having in this area,
where you feel most at yourself. That's to me what home is where you're most at peace with you. Some people, need their family around them. Some people, need the water around them. Some people like myself want mountains. But it's to me that that home is where you're most satisfied with yourself.
I like that. That's a good answer, I guess. And of course, everyone has a different answer, but this I related to this one, So you've been saying you are on the way alone and all of this. And you said sometimes you had feeling alone, but you are enjoying your own company. But do you really felt lonely in a way in any time of this?
The road trip for me was kind of also a clearing of my head. Like I'd gone through a breakup that it hit me kind of hard. So that definitely made me feel a little lonely because I couldn't help but think of what I did wrong, what I could have done to do better. So it had a lot of introspective thought to it, and sometimes it was hard. Sometimes it was needed though. Like sometimes I that's a lot of the trip really was I needed to get through things and work things out, and that trip actually allowed me to do that. It gave me a lot of peace and like retrospective, looking into who I am and what I can do to become better, or how I react over certain situations. Just it was, even though yes I was lonely, I needed it because it allowed me to realize a lot of the problems that I had or the way that I dealt with things, and how I can do better. So to me, being alone is never a real problem. There's being alone and then there's being lonely.
That's true.
As of lately, I'm alone, but I'm not lonely. I'm ready. I'm healed. I'm past that part of my life, and I'm ready to move on.
Yeah, as you said, sometimes you would be here in the city around too many people, but you're still feeling lonely.
Yep.
And when you went on your trip alone or with your dogs, but still alone, you wouldn't feel that lonely because you need it. So you are not really lonely or feeling lonely. You are alone, but not lonely.
Yep.
But you are here in city around too many people, but you would feel lonely. That's interesting to think about it, and how the people seeing this idea,
Yeah, it's you could be in a room surrounded by people and you could still feel alone.
I agree. I agree with that.
I'm glad that I'm past that part of my life.
Yeah.
I'm picky about who I include in my life, who I open up to, but we all need somebody to talk to.
Agree.
Mental health is a big thing, and you got to be careful about not talking. Sometimes not talking and communicating is more dangerous.
Agree.
and you got to force yourself out of that comfort zone sometimes. A lot of people will sit at home and just kind of sulk and not do anything to correct it. And I mean, I feel like life really begins outside of your comfort zone, and if you're not willing to take that step and change yourself, it's just going to stay the same.
Agree with that. I really agree. And the mental health, especially nowadays, it's very hard, and people need to think about it, need to really understand and be aware about it, and work to do it better. Like, mental health is important for you, like you need to take care of it. You need to know, you need to be aware about what you're doing in your life, who is in your life, who need to be in your life, and who doesn't need to be in your life. So I feel like sometimes we need to be heard and talking loudly with someone we trust and someone we know they're gonna listen to us. Sometimes we don't need even advice. We don't need it. We just need to talk about it.
You just need someone to listen.
Yes.
And it helps.
For anyone need really to talk, find the right one to talk with, open up, and don't really keep it to yourself, because I saw too many people now depressed, are very in a bad mood for too many things happening around us. Anyone can find negativity anywhere.
Yeah.
And anyone can find the positivity anywhere. So try to find the positive stuff, try to open up, try to talk. I feel we need it sometimes.
It's important, and like talking about this with you it's fun. It helps. It's I don't get to talk about this with many people, other than my family. So it's fun to share this type of stuff with you and your people.
I appreciate that. I really appreciate it.
I appreciate you having me on. And
thank you, man.
It's been fun sharing this experience with you.
I appreciate that. I really appreciate it. And the shows, I hear you. That's mean like you can come here, tell me your story. I'm here to hear you. I'm trying to help the people I know, and maybe people I don't know, if they really want to talk, they can like reach to me and tell me, I want to be in your show. You are all welcome to be here and talk with me about it. And I'm trying to do something better,
I think what you're doing is good. I think it's a good idea, man.
Yeah, thank you, man.
People need someone to just listen.
I appreciate
that.
So
I wish you all the luck with it. And I thank you for bringing me on.
Thank you, man. I really appreciate it. So before we end up the show, we usually play a game in the end of every show. With you, I will try something new. It's a question game, not really a game like what I used to do. So, are you a guy who follow his heart or his mind?
I follow my heart.
Your heart?
All the way.
Okay. So, I will ask you both, but let's say your mind is in front of you. What do you think your mind gonna tell you?
My mind would tell me to think of it logically. Like, my mind, sometimes I overthink things and I overanalyze situations. And like, if I listen to my mind all the time, I might not make the best decision that's good for me in the long run. But I've always followed my heart and my passion, which in the long run always plays out the way I need it to.
Yeah.
I'm a logical thinker, and sometimes that ruins things. So if I always listen to only my mind, I'll be okay, but I won't be prospering in the way that I could be if I listen to my heart. So like, following my heart, I'm happier.
Okay.
Following my head, I might, make some better choices, in certain areas.
More reality.
Yeah, but following my heart, it's just always provided me with more enjoyment, happiness, fulfillment.
Okay. Makes sense. So the other question is, what if your heart in front of you now, what do you think your heart is going to tell you after all of this journey?
I'm proud of you.
Oh, okay.
I think it would say, good job. You've come a long way, and you've persevered through a lot of bad shit. It doesn't get easier, and it's not gonna be easier. It's gonna only get harder. Life is very difficult, but you got to keep a positive attitude. And I would think, if my heart was outside, it would say, hey, good job.
I like that. I really appreciate that, and sharing that with me. So that was the end of the show. I really appreciate you came, man. I like having you here, and I hope you enjoy Tennessee.
Yeah, you'll have to come up and visit.
Believe me, I will. You know me. So I hope you enjoyed the show with us. It was really good. One of my best shows. Please help us or support us with a like, share, comment, and subscribe. And see you in the next week. Salam.